Hey there everyone, Christian here from Blue vs. Orange TCG, giving you a deck profile on the Major Shockwave deck that I brought to my locals tournament last Saturday. It was our first sanctioned constructed tournament after the announcement of organized play for Transformers TCG, so we were super excited about that, and we had a big old tournament Saturday that had, I believe it was 13 people. 13 people showed up, and a lot of people were bringing up some pretty competitive decks, so I was pretty excited to bring this and see how well it did. And it didn't disappoint. I ended up getting third place. I went 2-0-1, so I won my second and third rounds, and then I tied my first match against Hot Wheels, which was unfortunate for my opponent because we went to game 3, and when we went to time, if we would have went to one more turn, he would have KO'd me with a top deck grenade launcher. So unfortunate for him, great for me. But otherwise, so my first round match, just to give you a little bit more of a tournament report about what we saw at the local tournament, because I'm sure a lot of people are interested to see what decks people are bringing for Wave 3 constructed tournaments with Gen Con coming up pretty soon. So just to give you first a brief just synopsis of all the decks that I saw, there were 3 Hot Wheels decks, that is the Prowl, Wheeljack, and Lieutenant Bumblebee, floating around there. 2 Major Shockwaves, including my deck here. 3 traditional 3-wide Optimus Prime with Battlefield Legend, Flame War, and Private Hot Rod. 1 4-wide Motorcycles, 1 Decepticon Cars with Runabout and Runamuck. 1 Dreadwing. Shout out to Matthew, also from Blue vs. Orange TCG, scoring that 1-2 record with a win from the bye. Congrats, man, and congrats on pulling freaking Battlefield Legend off of the winning polls when no one pulled anything good. So congrats on that. Anyway, 2 double primes and then 1 Battlefield Legend, Arcee, and Ransack. So like a weird orange 3-wide prime deck. So that was 13 decks that we saw there. Obviously, some pretty decently competitive decks there. Seeing a lot of Cars, Shockwave, 3-wide Optimus, and even double primes there. My meta is very Autobot heavy, if you couldn't already tell with all the Cars and Battlefield Legends floating about. When I brought this deck, I was expecting to see a lot of Battle Masters, with that just being the new card from Wave 3. But ironically, I was running the only Battle Master of the whole event. And you know what, I didn't even really like him that much, but we can talk a little bit more about that in the deck profile. So let's just jump right into it with start off with our big boss guy here, Major Shockwave. So Major Shockwave, if you don't know what he does, he's a 14-star Decepticon leader spaceship specialist who has 6 attack, 17 health, and 3 defense in alt mode. And in his bot mode, he's got 7 attack, 17 health, and 2 defense. So obviously he's a really big character, right? Technically bigger than Battlefield Legend in terms of health and star count. And he's got some pretty crazy abilities too. So both in his alt mode and bot mode, his tech says that you can look at the top card at any time. So even in the middle of your turn, during your opponent's turn, you can just take a peek at the card and see what it is, which is super helpful for plays with like Leap of Faith and Field Communicator, being able to just tell what that top card is you want to play off the top of your deck and just kind of be able to use that Leap and Field Communicator more strategically. And when you flip to this mode, to his alt mode, you draw a card, and then your opponent chooses a card from their hand, and then they scrap it. So Major Shockwave is all about getting your opponent's hand down to 0, and continuously bringing your hand advantage up. And his bot mode reflects that even more, where again he can look at the top card of the deck at any time. But this time, if the top card of your deck is either a Decepticon card or a secret action, you can play that off the top of your deck, which can lead to a lot of pretty nutty combos with him. And just overall, just maintaining the hand advantage that you have, considering you can technically, if the cards show up, you can play both your action and your upgrade with him off the top of your deck, not even having to dip into your hand at all, while you're continuously playing cards and flipping him to scrap cards out of your opponent's hand. So he's a really scary card in that regard. With him being 14 stars, they're sometimes hard to find partners for him, but I'll show you what I brought. I brought Flame War, because this is a very blue heavy deck, and obviously, I'm sure most of you know who Flame War is. When you flip to her bot mode, while she is in bot mode, each of your characters gets tough 1. You know, Old Faithful, she's been around since Wave 1, and people still play her to this day. She's just that flipping good as a 5-star character. Also being a specialist with Shockwave, she also has the ability to use a lot of the specialist cards that you can run. I only really run Field Communicator, but I'll get into that a little bit more. But she definitely puts in work as a 5-star for Shockwave. And then you have 6 stars left, and so I opted to run Raider Nightstick. So I ran Raider Nightstick because if you haven't noticed, running Shockwave and Flame War, your first turn attack is pretty awkward, right? You don't really want to attack with Flame War first because you want to keep her healthy. And same thing with Shockwave, you don't want him to attack in first and have to deal with 3 attacks into him in a row. You typically want him to be the last character standing, so you kind of have to think about, well, who else can I put in here that would work? And the Battle Masters make a decent fit, right? Since they're always in the mode that they want to be starting out in, and you can always swing into them for first attack because when they die, they can turn into a weapon, right? And Nightstick turns into the Black Beam Blaster, which is basically like an Ion Blaster of Optimus Prime, giving whoever's ever equipped to it +2 attack and +1 defense. And as just a little bit of bonus, if you flip 2 blacks when attacking with a character equipped with this, they have to scrap a card from their hand. So it's good to work around security consoles and battlefield reports if your opponent already has 0 cards in hand, that they can just scrap the one that they draw even before their turn begins. Which it all sounded really good in theory, but to be honest, I did not enjoy playing this card in an actual tournament. In playtesting, I thought he was great, but once you're actually in there playing in the tournaments, you just realize what cards work and don't work. As a first turn attack, yeah, he was great and everything, but he's never really going to die the first attack into him. And so you have to either attack him with Shockwave or Flame War, and then they'll just ignore this guy the whole time while attacking into them. And even then, once he dies, with the new ruling, you're forced to play his upgrade side on a character. And oftentimes we run weapons in the late game on Shockwave and Flame War that we want to keep, that this isn't really a better option, even with that +1 defense. So I ended up siding him out every game, and I'll get into the side deck character that I ran once we go over my side deck, but I will say Nightstick will probably be going out of the deck and probably being replaced by that side deck character just because of all the work he put in. Anyway, that's my character lineup, so let's get into the battle deck here. So this is a very heavy blue deck, and because of that, and because of Shockwave, we have to run his 3 weapons here, the low voltage Gamma Disruptor launcher here. This card is actually really nuts, because what this card can do is, of course, put on Shockwave only. It gives Shockwave +2 attack, and he can have 2 of them on him at once. So if you put 2 of these on him, he's got +4 attack, and then each time you put one on Shockwave, your opponent has to scrap a card from their hand. So it's just added extra hand destruction that Shockwave obviously just loves so much, and it's a Decepticon card, so you can play off the top of your deck. And we're going to manipulate that a little bit later in the battle deck as well. There we go. And of course, continuing with the weapons, being a blue deck, we do run the 3 handheld blaster, just for that double blue pip, being able to defend a little bit more every now and then. Fantastic card. I ran 2 Scoundrels Blasters. It's a green pip, so you can fetch it and ditch dead cards out of your hand for it if you needed to. I often didn't see a lot of play with this card. I also ran it because it's a Decepticon card, so you could grab it with Shockwave, but even still, I wasn't always happy to see this card in hand because I usually had a better option at the time. So this will probably go down to 1. It still is a decent card, especially if you don't have like a Gamma Disruptor launcher to put on Shockwave and you need something to boost his attack for a swing. This is a good secondary option for that. Then we also ran 2 Energon Axe. This really put in a lot of work in the late game. Putting this on Flame War and then giving the bigger they are on Flame War, or even Raider Nightstick, giving them pure 6 is just absolutely nutty, and really kind of cleared out some games during the tournament. I'm definitely going to keep this at 2. I was originally going to be only running 1 of, but I think this is definitely going to stay as a 2 of, just because of how good it was. And then I do run for my last weapon a 1 of Laser Cutlass. I ran this as a 1 of just because I figured Nightstick was going to die pretty quickly anyway, so this would only go on Flame War. And I wasn't sure how long Flame War was going to last, so I'm not sure if 2 was even worth it. But you know, with Nightstick it didn't go away, and my new rendition of this deck, I'll probably bump this up to 2 and take out that second Scoundrels Blaster for a second Laser Cutlass. But when I did see this card, it was fantastic, right? Being able to just get an automatic Piercer on your opponent is really good. So that's my weapons. We'll get into the armors now, and I played 3 Smoke Cloak, and let me tell you what, this card was absolutely terrible in the tournament. Every time I saw this card, I was super unhappy to see it in my hand, right? And I played this just to kind of go off of Raider Nightstick's effects so that he would have more black pips for his discard ability. Well, that didn't really happen like at all during the tournament. I never saw black pips when I was attacking with Black Beam Blaster, and every time I had this in my hand, I wished it was something else. So these got sided out every single game, and I'll probably main deck the sideboard options, which I'll just tell you now was the Trick Armors, the Sturdy Armor. So I took out 3 of these, put in 2 Sturdy Armor, and then some other upgrade sideboard, and it was just so much better than Smoke Cloak, I will say. Which is kind of unfortunate, but I just don't think this is the deck for Smoke Cloak. And then my other armors, I played 1 Sparring Gear just as a searchable tough 2. It's really, really good being able to put on Flame War, giving her tough 3. And then 1 Bastion Shield, just get rid of those pesky force fields or Sparring Gears, whatever just could kind of cause us to have Shockwave not kill something in one hit. And then finally our utilities for upgrades, we did play the 3 Field Communicator because we do run 2 Specialists. And with Shockwave being able to always look at the top card of your deck, you know what's going to be played when you play the Field Communicator. And that's really, really saucy. That can make for some really, really saucy plays with some extra battle cards that you can play, or playing a second Gamma Disruptor Launcher if it happens to be on top of the deck. Yeah, these are just really, really good in the deck, and I'm always happy to see them. And then the final utility, we did play 1 Debilitating Crystal. This will probably get taken out as well. It's not bad per se, but every time I had it in my hand, it was always against stuff that I just did not want my opponents to have in their hand. I'd rather just scrap it with like a Smelt or something like that. So like debating on putting this on Shockwave, but realizing I could only attack Wheeljack to have the turbo boosters on them only, so I didn't want to return a turbo boosters to a Cars deck at all, so excuse me, it just didn't come up as often as I hoped it would. It might still be relevant enough as a sideboard card, but for now it's probably going to get taken out first mouth. That's it for my upgrades. I played about 20 upgrades in there, and then on to the action cards. Of course, being a blue hand control deck, we did play, of course, the 3 security checkpoint, this monster of a card here. Having the free double blue and being able to take out all upgrades from you and your opponent's hands is super, super good for hand control. I often don't play this as much as you probably think I would, because oftentimes they don't have enough cards in my hand to warrant being like, okay, I'm just gonna trash the 1 card in their hand, hoping it's a weapon or upgrade while trashing 1 or 2 of mine. It doesn't come out like that very often. This often gets put on top of the deck for Battlefield Report, but we'll get into that a little bit later, but it's still a fantastic card in the deck. And then we played 3 The Bigger They Are and 1 Steady Shot. So The Bigger They Are was a fantastic card in this, with Nightstick and Flame War being level 6s and level 5s. They often got the Pierce 4 against a lot of different opponents. And with that, they were just able to be a whole lot more useful. Steady Shot, again, I was originally running 3 of each. All, again, for the Black Beam Blaster's effect, but similar to Smoke Cloak, I was just never happy seeing this in my hand versus like, oh, I wish this was The Bigger They Are, even like a heavy-handed, than just a Steady Shot. So this will probably get taken out for something like a heavy-handed as well. Basically, most things that are Black Pip in this deck didn't work out very well and will probably be taken out of in the next rendition of Shockwave. Anyway, so our secret actions, I played 2 Battlefield Report and I played 2 Hiding Spots. So let me just kind of get into this. Your Battlefield Report, obviously, if you don't know what the card does, it's basically an incoming transmission for defense. When one of your characters is defending, you draw 2 cards and put 1 on top of your deck before calculating, or before flipping, right? So that's a no-brainer card. Now, Hiding Spot was actually a super, super clutch card in this. Being able to set a hiding spot and then attack with Shockwave as my second character would allow my Shockwave to get a free early hit on, and being able to direct this attack over to the next attack over the Nightstick was super, super good. That being said, it is, if you can't see, it is just a plain Black Pip, and we ran 2 again for Nightstick, but a little bit more for Nightstick, I guess, because Hiding Spot's such a good card. I will say I did find it to be a dead draw very often in the late game, because you do end up drawing a lot of cards, so I'm probably going to take out one of these and probably main board an Infiltrate, just for the first game rounds against Autobots, orange Autobots, which is very common in my local, so that's more of a meta call than anything. But I also don't think it's bad to at least mainboard one Infiltrate when it's there. At least that's my opinion, so we did play that as well. Oops, sorry, did not mean to hit the camera there. Alright, so next action, these are again more of the 2-ofs. We played 2 unconventional flying object. Now let me tell you what about this card. This card is absolutely crazy in Shockwave, so with just having one of these and a Gamma Disruptor Launcher in your hand or on top of the deck can cause you to draw 2 cards and your opponent to scrap 3 cards. If you don't know what an unconventional flying object is, you flip one of your spaceships to bot mode and then back to alt mode again, so you can get a second trigger on your alt mode effect. So just to kind of show off what I mean here, say if your Shockwave is in bot mode and you begin your turn and you had these 2 cards in your hand, we'll say, you flip Shockwave over to alt mode, you draw a card, your opponent scraps a card, you activate unconventional flying object, flipping them back from bot back to alt mode, triggering his effect again to having them scrap another card from their hand, and for you to draw 1 more card in your hand, and then putting a Gamma Disruptor Launcher on him, having them scrap 1 more card. So you're at such a huge advantage there, just from having him be in bot mode and having these 2 cards in your hand, or even having this card on top of your deck, right? So it's even slightly more consistent than that. Overall, it's a fantastic card. I think 3 is too many though. If you try to play 3, try prove me wrong, I guess, but I think it's just a little too cloggy to run as a 3-of. 2-of I think is perfect. Speaking of 3-ofs being a little too cloggy, we also ran 2 Reclaim. Reclaim is really, really good in this deck as well, because you can put the Gamma Disruptor Launchers from your scrapyard on top of your deck with this, and then playing with Shockwave's bot mode ability. Not even that, you can even, if you needed like a Laser Cutlass or any other type of upgrade, you can put it on top of the deck with with this, and then flip Shockwave to alt mode, and then draw it back into your hand. So it's a little less efficient than having it like a 3 high tower when activating this, but it's still really, really good, especially for some of our sideboard cards, which I'll get into in a little bit. That's definitely a 2-of right there. And then our last 2-of is 2 One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall. I found that this deck often had trouble one-hit killing or finishing off opponents with Shockwave, where Shockwave would have like 1 to 3 health left on the enemy, where it just wouldn't quite kill it, where a One Shall Stand would have been perfect in that scenario. You can even use it to get rid of Nightstick a little bit quicker, or Flame War as decent targets for this. Overall, I think direct damage is kind of needed in this deck. I don't know how much is needed, but we're starting off with this and it's looking pretty good so far. And then our last 2 cards in the deck, we ran 1 Vaporize and 1 Espionage. So the Vaporize obviously is just a little bit more upgrade hate. That we played. It came in handy quite a few times, blasting away force fields. Never saw any Battle Master, so it didn't do that, but it definitely saw some play, right? And Espionage was super, super good, because sometimes it can be a little slow to get Shockwave going to get rid of your opponent's hand, especially if they're playing a lot of draw cards. So just having an extra discarding card that you can search with the green pip is super useful in this deck. I think 1-of is just fine. I don't think you need to run 2-of. If you were to run another discarding card, I'd probably run a Disruptive Entrance over another Espionage, but that's just me. So that's our 40 card battle deck. Next up, I can go over the side deck that I ran for the event. So speaking of side deck, so the side deck character that I was talking about earlier that's going to replace Nightstick is in fact Raider Roadhugger. So Raider Roadhugger was super, super great as a side deck character. It wasn't a silver bullet card or anything, but it just was way more useful than Nightstick, obviously. You still run into the problem of having an awkward first turn where it's like, well, who do I attack first with? Well, you still flip Flame War and attack with Roadhugger first, right? Just because that's the safest play that you can make. They'll attack into Roadhugger, more than likely will not kill it. Even with that 7 health and 1 defense, being in a bold deck with him having tough 1, he'll probably will not die in the first attack, right? And so after that, then you'll probably send in your Flame War. So once Flame War is tapped, they'll automatically want to go straight into Flame War, leaving Roadhugger alone, right? So once you kind of get to that point and untap, you can flip Roadhugger on your next turn, and you can start just going into people with Roadhugger and Shockwave for massive, massive damage. And I did this during my Game 3 against Battlefield, against my Double Primes matchup. where I was facing down a full health Optimus Prime with my full health Shockwave. I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to outgrind him if he kept flipping like Leap into Battles and the bigger they are or heavy-handed. But Roadhugger was able to help me swing in for 13 at a time, which Battlefield Legend just went down in 2 hits after that, so that was fantastic. He's not a specialist like Nightstick, so he doesn't get access to field communicators, but that's totally okay. I think the fact that he just gives that extra, basically that free Leap into Battle, or turning a blue pip card into a Leap into Battle is just so handy in a deck that wants to swing really hard with one character. So I think he's a great option for the main board, and I'm excited to do more testing with him. So to figure out who's going to be replacing him as a side deck character for me, I'm thinking of Skydive, just for that extra tough 2 against really bold heavy matchups. But that's still in testing, and for now, Roadhugger just did a lot of work, and I was super pleased to play him, and he's probably going to see more play later on. Excuse me. Except for the battle cards, we ran, of course, the 3 Infiltrate, because we do not like Press the Advantage in this deck. It was sad, I sided this then all 3 in every single game, and I never saw it in any of my games, and not even in Hot Wheels, which I wanted to see it the most. That being said though, it's still a fantastic sideboard card. It's unfortunate I didn't get to see a whole lot of it during the tournament, but that's okay. It's still going to stay in here as a 3 of. More than likely I actually might go to a 2 of and on main board 1 Infiltrate, just to have an extra diversified secret action list in my main board. And then I ran 1 Cornered. I was expecting to see a lot of Bugs and Aerial Bots at my tournament, because I know a lot of them played Bugs before Wave 3 was released. Excuse me, my goodness. But ironically, there wasn't a single Bug player there, or Aerial Bot, so this was absolutely useless. You don't want to flip this in Cars, right? You don't want to play this against the Cars deck. Sorry about that, hit the camera again. So this will probably be taken out. It's not a bad card at all, but just as a meta call for my meta, I'll probably be taking this out because it seems like a lot of people are really interested in playing Dinos and Hot Wheels from when I talk to them. But it might still stay in here just because it's just a 1-of card and it's still a good option. I was also siding in 1 Leap of Faith for when I sided in Roadhugger, because that left me with 1 extra star. And Leap of Faith is like Field Communicator in this deck, where I can at least tell what the first card I'm going to flip is when I play this, so I can kind of time this around to when I would really want to play it. For upgrades, I ran 1 Enforcement Batons, which saw absolutely 0 play because obviously there was no Battle Masters. But I did run 2 Sturdy Armor. Now let me tell you what, the Sturdy Armor was an absolutely fantastic sideboard card here. I sided these in every single round as well. I would take out the Smoke Cloaks for these, and these were super great. I didn't realize how many meta characters were ranged until I started playing this card. I'm like, oh, I get +2 with this as well. How about that? And the fact it's a green pip blue card just makes it really easy to grab. And just if you are playing against ranged characters, it's basically like a sparring gear, except you get the guaranteed +2 instead of just like the possible +2 with tough 2. And it's a blue icon versus sparring gear's orange icon. I'm still going to run the sparring gear, but these will probably see main deck play instead of the Smoke Cloaks. Definitely will. And then my last sideboard cards were 2 W5 Gyro Blaster. Now let me tell you what, this card also put in a whole lot of work for me today, Saturday. Especially in my Hot Wheels match, where this card essentially just completely shut down Prowl and Wheeljack for my opponent. Slapping this on Shockwave is just super deadly, and if they don't have an out for it, it can really screw up with their plays, and just along with having 0 cards in their hand, the disruption is just super real for my opponent, which is just super satisfying to me, right? I love playing control decks. You'll probably see me playing a lot of control decks on the channel. My brother Matthew, who is also my partner in crime here on this channel, will probably play a lot more aggro decks, but he plays a lot of what he wants to play, right? And I play a lot of what I want to play. Anyway, W5 was fantastic. I'm considering putting in the 3rd one just for that added consistency if I really want to drop, but at the same time I can kind of grab this with Reclaim by putting it on top of my deck and then flipping Shockwave to draw a card. So I technically don't have to play the 3rd one, but I might do it in testing just to see. My whole sideboard's pretty much going to get redone because I'm going to be main boarding a couple of these like Leap of Faith and the Sturdy Armor and taking out like the Quarter and Enforcement Batons, but Anyway, that is my sideboard, and that, my friends, was the deck profile for Major Shockwave. Overall, I think he's a really, really great character in this set. I think he was every bit of hype as everyone says he was. I don't think he's going to be top tier anytime soon, just because of cards like Press the Advantage, sticking around, really hurting Decepticon defensive decks. Infiltrate really helps that. But still, I just don't think he can outpace some of the really, really fast, hard-hitting Autobot decks that are out there, like Hot Wheels and Dinobots. Hot Wheels definitely wasn't a great matchup for Shockwave, but once my opponent lost all their hand, it was definitely difficult for them to swing back, especially with that W5 on them. So it's a big matchup thing. A lot of like some of this game is there's good matchups, there's bad matchups. Sadly, I think Shockwave has a few more bad matchups than he has good matchups. That won't stop me from playing him, and he's definitely not a bad character by any stretch of the imagination. He's super, super good, and he's super, super fun. If you haven't already given him a try, I'd really recommend it. He's easily one of my favorite characters so far in this set. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this deck profile, please let me know in the comment section below. And just if you have any tips for maybe changes for my deck, or ways I could maybe play a little bit differently, or things I just never even thought of for this deck, because I'm learning this competitive scene, and just with the onset of Wave 3, there's so much new stuff going on, and it's such an exciting time for this game. And so I'm just really excited to kind of start my journey here along with you guys. So please just let me know if there's anything else you want to see. We're hoping to do tournament reports every other week. My locals is having tournaments every single Saturday. I probably can't make every single Saturday, but every other Saturday is a definite for sure for tournaments. So probably expect a tournament report and deck profile every other Saturday. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day. Alright, adios.